harmonizers, it's time to get another Mustang because I've already got 5. Why not one more, right? They're like potato chips. You can't just have one. Well, I was sent this picture of an 11-year-old Mustang mare that was supposed to get picked up by somebody else in Tennessee, but they didn't come get her, and her paperwork was about to run out to come to Canada. So I had her shipped up. We met at the border. This is our sketchy footage of picking her up at the border using panels to transfer her between my trailer and the trailer that brought her to the border for me, because I didn't have time to drive all the way down to Tennessee. So she got brought up to New York, and then we brought her home. And after I was away for an entire week with family vacation, and then I had a clinic, I started working with her a little bit. So this video is going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to take you through several different sessions to kind of truncate this a little bit to show you guys the progress over a bunch of time. Now, I didn't have a lot of time to work with her because I already have 5 Mustangs and I have a regular job as a nurse, plus I have my kids and all the other training and everything that I do. So I was just going out spending 15-20 minutes with her, maybe half an hour. That's Sully on the other side of the fence there, who's not helping matters, running back and forth. He is still pretty wild. And you can see I'm approaching her, bringing her grass, wanting to show her like, hey, we can be friendly. There's going to be nice things that happen for you if you want to hang out with us. So we always start with that grass. Now, the interesting thing about her would be that I'd toss her the grass and she'd eat a little bit. And then she would kind of stand off to the side. Here she's going to have a little poop. And then she would be very reluctant to come and eat the grass again. It was almost like I'd be better off going in and spending 5 minutes with her and just approaching her, tossing some grass, letting her eat it, and completely leave. And if I spent longer with her or kept kind of approaching her, she would almost kind of freeze and go internal and be like, oh, I guess I can't eat the grass. So it was kind of interesting to work with her because normally once they eat the grass once, they're very eager to come back and eat more. And here you can see she approaches me and you think she's going to come and eat the grass. And she walks over and she kind of puts her head down, but she doesn't actually go and eat the grass. And she ends up kind of running past me. So I'm like, okay, this is a little different. Now, she is the oldest Mustang that I have ever worked with. She is 11 years old. And normally the younger a Mustang is, the easier it is to tame. Not necessarily, because sometimes, you get really scared once. But this is now footage that is sped up 8 times as fast. 8 times. That is a lot faster. And I wanted to show you just how long I waited for her to eat this grass. And I tried approaching her again. I tried tossing her more grass that was closer to her. And it just took forever for her to finally go over and kind of sniff it. And she still didn't end up fully eating the grass. So here's a different perspective now after I've been waiting for a little while, and I'm going to come bring her some grass. And the idea is just to show her that people approach her, and this gives you a good visual of where the first pile of grass was and where that second pile of grass is completely close to her. And I approached her, and then as she kind of put her head down, I backed up again to give her some more space if she wanted to eat that grass. And I just found it really interesting how scared she was, that she wasn't entirely sure if she wanted to eat the grass or not. Not really entirely sure if she could trust the grass that I was bringing her. And I go to a distance that I feel like I can throw the grass without her getting super upset. Here you can see she starts to back up. So she's kind of saying that's about her limit of what she can handle. So I'll kind of wait here a little bit. I want to be close enough that I feel like I can get that grass close enough to her. So I'm trying to be able to give her that grass far away from me so she can feel like she can go and eat that grass. And you can see she's kind of waffling a little bit side to side, kind of unsure. She's thinking about maybe running past me. She's not sure if she likes being trapped in this end of the pen. So I'm just kind of being patient, holding the grass, trying to allow her time to just kind of see who I am and that there's nothing threatening in my body language. And then I'm going to offer that grass to her when I feel like she's standing quietly and is pretty sure that I'm not going to eat her, because that's the goal, is I want her to be relaxed. And when she puts her head down to kind of rub her nose, that can be her releasing a little bit of tension. And I want to make sure I don't try to sneak up closer to her when she does that. So you can see she kind of faced me there, and I tossed her the grass, and this was pretty huge that she actually came over and took a little nibble of that grass, even with me not being super far away. So I was pretty happy with that. It's like, okay, finally made a little bit of progress. Now I can leave the pen and end on a good note. But you can see she holds it in her mouth. We're progressing now to using a long piece of grass to try and approach her. So I've got this really long piece of grass, which gives some distance between me and her. So I'm not trying to touch her with my hand, which can be too intimidating. And I'm also not reaching out with a stick, which sometimes a stick can be a little intimidating. So this is just a piece of grass. I've already worked on trying to get close to her and trying to get her to eat the grass. And I figured out that if I had this really long piece of grass, I could tickle her nose a little bit. And the goal was to try to get her to eat some grass out of my hand, but it ended up kind of turning into me being able to pet her a little bit with the grass, which was kind of a new way of doing that. I don't typically do that. You can see there I got a little too close and she got a little overwhelmed, and so she ran away. As I come this way, you'll get to see my piece of grass a little bit better. And so I just kind of used the tool that made sense. After she kind of got back over in the corner, I just kind of continue being slow, being patient, approaching her and trying to touch her with that little grass. And if she wanted to eat that grass, she totally could. But I'm just touching her a little bit with that friendly grass. And when she allows me to touch her a little bit and stroke her with that little bit of grass, then I could either touch or toss the grass to her to give her a reward that way, or I can walk away to give her a bit of a release and pressure. So depending on the situation will depend on which one that I do. So there I decided that I would give her a release and walk away from her after letting me touch her there. And this is progressing now to a stick. So we're jumping along in sessions here, getting to kind of see the training process a little bit more quickly, kind of some of the highlights as we go through. So now I've got a stick here, and I do a lot of different work on trying to approach and create that calmness, trying to take away that anxiety of when I approach, something bad's going to happen or it feels yucky. So I approach and then I'll wait for a little bit and then I'll walk away. And so like that one, I did not offer her grass because she didn't turn her head and look at me. And so here's another one where I'm approaching. I'm going to approach. I offer my stick to touch, which she allows me to kind of touch her on the nose there. And then that kind of gives me permission to go ahead and touch or try touching further places on her body, which she stands still for. So that time I offered her some grass because she turned and looked at me. So it's gauging a little bit of what she needs the reward to be. Sometimes the reward can be walking away and giving her some time to process and think. It's really valuable to allow the horses time to think. Just imagine yourself being really scared of something and somebody's encouraging you and like, you can do it, you can do it. Sometimes you just need them to back off a little bit and just process how far you've progressed or how much you've tried. So that way you can gain the courage again to try again and try more. But if it's just go, 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 go all the time, like try more, try more, try more, we can do more, more, more. At some point you can feel like you really have to put on the brakes and stop them because you feel like they're going to take a mile. It's that whole saying, if you give an inch, you're going to take a mile. It's the same thing with horses. If you keep taking an inch, at some point you have to walk away and just be like, yay, we got the inch. You can't go right in for that mile. So here I'm trying really hard to get her to take grass by hand rather than touching it or tossing it to the ground. So I'm petting her with the stick, which is something that we've been working on. And then I keep trying to reach out for her to take that grass by hand. And I'm trying to reach forward. I'm trying not to walk too close to her with my body because I know that that can be kind of overwhelming for her. So I'm trying to reach forward, not get too much into her space because I know she gets a little nervous when I get too close to her head. But it will be a really nice thing when she can start to take food by hand, because then it will allow me to get a little bit closer to her and just build up that trust a little bit more. So here I'm still stroking her, reaching forward. I'm like, please just take the grass out of my hand. And I have significantly clipped down these little clips. There she didn't end up taking the grass, so I walk away. I'm like, okay, I need to give her a second to just breathe, and then we'll go back and we'll try again. But these clips, I think this session was probably 35 minutes, and I'm just showing you a couple little highlights there. One where I got too close and she kind of ran away, and then here where she thought about running away, and then I'm able to just kind of continue stroking her. So this is where I'm starting to touch her legs. Sometimes it helps to just, even though she's not taking grass by hand, to do just touching a little bit more parts of her body, just to reiterate that message of, look, like I touch friendly, I'm not going to hurt you, it's okay. And it also helps to establish a little bit of that passive leadership to say, hey, like I can touch you on your body, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you. If you don't know what passive leadership is, it is definitely the number one thing that can make your relationship with your horse so much calmer and so much better. And I highly recommend you check out Passive Leadership, which you can visit our website at harmonyhorsemanship.com to find more info on that. And then you can see she's kind of doing that thing where she would take a little bit of grass and then she would get overwhelmed and run away. So this was kind of an interesting thing to work through. Here I thought was an interesting clip because the tractor goes behind her on the outside of the pen, and she's actually able to stay and not completely run away. You can see she gets a little bit stressed. Her head comes up. She gets a little bit tight in her body, and she kind of thinks about maybe going away. And you can see she's a little bit stressed there, but she ends up being able to stay, which I thought was really great. So here is a pretty big moment, which is me being able to give her grass, and she does not run away. Finally, it took so many times, so many efforts of offering her that grass, and finally I'm able to go up there, give her some grass, and not have her run away from me. So that was a pretty big moment. And then once you get here to this point that you can use a reinforcement and do that positive reinforcement, then all of a sudden things can progress a lot more. It definitely can feel like it is taking for absolutely ever. The amount of times that I went out for sessions and was just tossing grass, slowly inching my way closer, and you feel like you're really not getting anywhere. And sometimes I love looking back on these videos because when I take on new Mustangs, it just kind of reminds me, gives me hope. It's like, okay, like it gets better, like, because it can feel so frustrating. It's just taking forever. I just want you to eat grass out of my hand. And then when it finally starts to click, everything just goes so much faster and you feel like you can actually start to do things. And so here you can see she's doing so much better already. She's getting so much more relaxed. She's taking that grass from my hand. She's not feeling the need to run away, and she's starting to realize, okay, like Lindsay comes and it's not going to be the end of the world. So here's a little look now on a different session. You can see she's already got a bunch of grass in her mouth. So that means that we have already been doing a little bit of touching and progressing. And we're working on touching now with a shorter stick. So I don't have the big, long lunge whip stick anymore. Now I've got a much shorter stick. So we're working on getting even closer, working on touching her with her different legs, and starting to move my hand up a little closer on the stick. So that way it's getting my body a little closer to her. So she's getting used to seeing me a lot closer. You can see she's doing really well there. She's still kind of snatching the grass a little bit sometimes. And then as I'm progressing, I'm starting to get into the place where I can reach out and touch her just a little bit. Now, interestingly enough for her, she was most relaxed if I approached her more at her hip. So I let the horses tell me where they are most comfortable with me touching. And so for her, if I went towards her hip area, she didn't seem as bothered than if I was going towards her shoulder area. She was more likely to kind of run away. Like there, when I was petting her with the stick more towards her head, she ends up running away. She just seems more sensitive there. And just by trial and error, practicing touching different areas with the stick, I get to find out where the horse is more comfortable with me getting closer with my hand as well. So here I'm working a little bit on trying to get a little bit closer to that ear area and then retreating back to where she's more comfortable. So you can see as I go up towards her neck and go towards her ears, she gets a little bit more tense, and I kind of quickly retreat back over to where her hip area is, and that's where she's more comfortable. So that's where I felt like reaching out to touch her would be the easier spot to do. So sometimes that's on their right side, sometimes it's on their left side. Here you can see I reach out and I pet her on her hip area, and she's okay with that. And I can offer grass. And then here I'm reaching out on that hip again, slowly making my way a little closer and closer up towards her neck area. And as I get closer to that neck area, she's kind of looking. You can see she kind of expects that grass. She's like, okay, you're touching me. I would like my grass now. And I'm like, that's fine. That's totally great. Like, you don't know me. You don't know that you can trust me. So you want some paychecks. That's great. And it helps her to know that she has an opportunity to earn, and I bring yummy, nice little treats, and helps to create that feel good bond. It's kind of like, imagine when you're making a friend. If you were to meet somebody for the first time and you were like, hey, I want to do this thing with you, it could be overwhelming. And you'd probably be expected to reward a new person. So, like, let's say I had somebody come over to my house and I'm like, oh, can you help me clean my house? It's really, really dirty. You'd probably expect to somehow be rewarded after doing that with some pizza or something. Or you might have to actually pay somebody with some money to come and clean your house for you. But once you create that relationship, then you don't need to have that reward as much because you know each other, you trust each other. So here she actually kicked out enough that she made me drop my sticks. I was like, oh, we do not want to turn that into a really bad thing. So I'm going to just hold that stick until you realize that kicking does not actually give you a release. And then I'm going to offer you positive reinforcement for not kicking. So it's really important when you're training any type of horse that you don't accidentally teach them dangerous behavior by giving them a reward by accident. So rewards are best when they're things like grass, because then it's really clear you're only going to get the grass when you've done something good. But there's also a reward in a release of pressure. Meaning, I'm going to try to touch you a little bit here. And when you're still, I'm going to stop, or I'm going to offer you that grass. And so if she learned that if she kicked and she was able to toss the stick away and then no more touching of her leg, that would be a bit of a reward for her. So I want to be careful that she didn't learn that. So I made sure that I touched that leg until she realized, no, if you allow me to touch your leg, you'll actually get grass instead. So it's a bit of a two-way street of making sure that you're not accidentally giving a release in what you're doing to cause a reward for something that you don't want the horse to learn to do. And it's so easy to accidentally teach your horse really dangerous behavior by releasing in the wrong moment, which is also why it's really great to introduce positive reinforcement, because then even if they get a release in pressure or a release in general, and it's not the right thing, if they don't earn that grass, or that reward, that treat, then they won't necessarily think it's quite as something that you want them to do. So there's a little bit more. It's like, oh, like, how do I earn that grass? And it changes that a little bit and gives you a little bit more margin of error when you're working with the horses instead of just a reward in the release. Because let's say she kicked me and then I fell down and I couldn't get back up and I couldn't do anything else and she could run away, then she might learn to kick people to cause them to fall down, and then hence they go away. So you wouldn't want them to learn that. And so instead, by having that positive reinforcement, it's really helpful as well, because then they're looking for that grass. So it really starts to speed things up. So we were able to get to this part where I'm touching her and I'm able to approach her. If I need her to kind of turn around a little bit more, I just go behind her and that causes her to turn. And then I can reapproach her. And you can see I'm starting to get closer and closer. I'm up on her neck area now, starting to touch her mane a little bit, which is pretty exciting, because then I'm going to be able to start combing out those dreadlocks that are in there. I so badly, ever since I saw her and I saw her beautiful mane, I really badly want to brush it and get all of those dreadlocks out. So I'm pretty excited because that looks like it's going to be happening pretty soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of taking you through a bunch of her progress. Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.